Okay, so happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to our Universal Support Call. I know one person is still on a cruise. Beth is out in the ocean somewhere and will be coming back in a couple of days. But thank you all for joining us. And I think I put in the chat, I don't know if you can see it, there's the dashboard that we've created for all things ESHIP. And one of the things that we haven't put on there, if you take a look at that, is we did not put the links to the goal initiatives yet. So for this, we actually have expanded universal support. So there are 5 initiatives that are on here. So while you're taking a look at that, we're going to do a little check-in and see. I didn't prepare a question to come on board. So if you will introduce yourself and popcorn and call on the next person and just tell us how you're arriving today. So how are you arriving today? I'm Cecilia, and I am arriving through the weekend and getting ready to pack for the next 2.5 to 3 weeks on the road again. So I've been home for about 10 days-ish, where I got to see a couple of you. I got to see Dia and Eric, so I was really excited about having real face-to-face time. And I will be in Charlottesville, Virginia, for the Tom Tom Festival. So if you know anybody or will be in the Virginia, DC area, come. We have extra passes. And then I go to Bahrain for the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. So very excited about that. And then Kansas City to the foundation for more ESHIP planning. So I will call on Katie.
Awesome. Hey everybody, my name is Katie Stanton. I'm a program director for the Urban Manufacturing Alliance. We're a national organization that supports keeping manufacturing jobs and businesses in cities. I'm also one of the ESHIP champions, and I'm one of the leader champions for this goal. I'm arriving today super pumped because for the first time yet this season, it is 70 degrees out and sunny here. And it is a major accomplishment for Wisconsin, where I live. I tried to ignore that in 2 days it's going to snow 3 to 5 inches, but we're just pretending that that's not happening. So I'm living in the moment. So I will popcorn to Dia.
Let's see. Can y'all hear me? Okay, I wasn't sure if I'm mute. Okay, my name is Dia Ghosh. I work with Ada Jobs Foundation in Ada, Oklahoma. It's in Southeast Oklahoma. We are the city's economic development organization. I work as entrepreneurship specialist, so I work directly with local entrepreneurs, startup businesses. I'm just getting over, I was sick last week, but I feel much better, so that's good. Next week, I'll be in Denver attending the JUICY, or the Global Co-working Conference in Denver. Looking forward to that. And I know ESHIP is in May, but I'm looking forward to it already. Okay, I'll popcorn it to Samantha.
Thank you. I'm Sam Steidel. I'm an entrepreneurial advocate and located in Roanoke, Virginia. I'm here in Roanoke. I started 6 different types of entrepreneurial spaces, 3 co-working spaces, an incubator, an accelerator, and a fab lab. So I spent the past 7 years at a community college, but now I'm working on my PhD in community college leadership with a research emphasis on how entrepreneurial presidents at community colleges can lead to how entrepreneurial leadership can lead to outcomes for both the college and the community. So I'm excited to be here in this working group with you guys. I'm going to popcorn to Eric.
Why, thank you very much. Let's see. Hi, Eric Rens-Whitmore. I'm with City of Albuquerque. I do community outreach for our technology and innovation group, but also work pretty closely with our economic development. And I've been a community builder, ecosystem builder for, I don't know, a good 8 to 10 years or so. Yeah, I think I'm ready. I think this feels like it's finally spring here as well. Some 40-degree nights still, but getting into the 70s and stuff, so that's nice. And also really excited about this work too. I'm a little less familiar with this goal than most of the others, but want to kind of check in and see what's going on, so I'm a little more familiar. So thanks to everyone who's doing great work here. I think Dara, is it Dara or Dara?
Dara.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So I'm Dara Macon. I'm with SourceLink, and I am fortunate enough that I get to work with lots of communities all across the country. And Katie, did you say you're up in Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
I was just there last week, and looking forward to heading next week to Minneapolis for the NBIA conference.
Oh, we'll see you there.
Yeah. So is that?
Yeah.
I think that was everybody.
Yeah, that is everybody. Okay, so we had a document that we shared initially, and I will put this into the current Slack. Let me see. And since we created this document, which is an overview of initiatives, and I will share my screen for a second. I have lots of tabs open, so I have to make sure I share the right screen. So this shows the universal support as it was back in January, and you'll see how things have shifted a little bit. The reason for the shifts from some of these it's the evolution of after the last ESHIP summit in July, the first round of working group calls and initiatives that were created and kind of pitched out there on a big spreadsheet that we had, kind of a big messy spreadsheet, and ended up with about 20 some odd initiatives per goal. So we ended up with about 130 initiatives. Out of the 130 initiatives, Enoch, Andy, and I sat down and we culled through the ones that we felt had some energy behind it, a good starting point. The rest of the initiatives are still very important, and there's a place for all of them. But in order to move the field forward, we wanted to focus on some that we felt that we could move towards. In December, we got 12 or 13 ESHIP champions. A couple of you that are on the call came, and we did a deep dive in Denver and kind of raised up some and discussed others and looked around at the gold language again and made some other drafts. And so in January, this is what we were looking at. And when you look at these, the ones that have hyperlinks to them, they have a goal brief. The brief that we used initially is pretty extensive. It's got several pages to it, lots of information. And we've taken these ideas and some of the other ones, and we've talked to national resource providers, people at foundations, and large overarching or nationally reaching providers. Katie's an example of a national resource provider with Urban Manufacturing Alliance. You've got like NBIA, Startup Champions, along with foundations like CASE and NIGHT and a couple of others and other organizations. And we looked at them together, and from there they said, these we feel are a good starting point. These are something that's really harder to define. And so now we have what we're looking at here, which is the current iteration of some of this work. So if you look at the universal support on the dashboard, these are 5 initiatives that we feel that at the ESHIP Summit, as we present these to your fellow practitioners and the national resource providers, that we can get some support behind it. So while we have make the case for the importance of entrepreneurship and ecosystem building as 6.2 from the original document, or the January document, right now on the dashboard we're looking at that as 6.1, because not that it's more important than the policy playbook was. The policy playbook is being worked on, and it's local, state, and federal best support entrepreneurial ecosystems, and it's a little bit more of a challenge to get those different perspectives. Does that make sense? All into a document. It's hard enough. Lauren and the team at the Kauffman Foundation are writing the third version of the ESHIP playbook, and that with a team of people who are integrally knowledgeable about ESHIP goals and all the practices, it's still taking, quite an effort to try to hone that in. The public policy playbook to support all of this, that's a really, it's a challenge, right? So we've shifted them. It's not as much an order of importance as just what we've seen bubble up to the top. What we're hoping for is we've created a brief, which is a much simpler form of trying to relay this information into a presentable form, so that, let's say, when you get to the ESHIP Summit in May, you open up your program guide and you look at the introductory space, and let me see if I can pull that up. If Eric or Katie have the brief up, I didn't have it up on my screen. If you can share that, that would be great. And what we're trying to do is create something that that is just a little bit easier to present. Do either one of you have that available by chance? Otherwise, I will go find it. You're like quickly searching.
Yeah, I'm trying to quickly search.
Okay. And we still have some challenges with the brief. We're trying to create, I think we started with a Google slide, and we're trying to create it into a shareable PDF. So it's pretty simple. It just lays out in 1 or 2 sentences what those things are, what we need, the team that's needed for all of these, and we'll be transcribing or transferring the information onto this document when somebody pulls it up, and then we'll put the links in here. So that's the goal between now and ESHIP, so that as we get ready for the ESHIP Summit, we'll be able to present it. So the goal of the ESHIP Summit is to bring together national resource providers and practitioners to work on these initiatives together, and then create an opportunity to start pilots on some of these initiatives. So does anybody have any questions on that, on the ESHIP Summit, any of the things that we've discussed so far?
I have a question. Where do we expect the policy playbook to go in the next, between now and the summit?
So between now and the summit, it will go onto a program guide, right? Which I've asked ESHIP champions to try to get that information on that guide, on that template in the next 2 weeks or so. And then we'll try to get them ready, because in order for it to be published in a program guide, it has to go through several channels. So as far as changing the wording or anything around it, is that the question?
No, like, I'm writing a paper and I want to include it.
Oh, okay.
Research, it's how can policymakers influence?
That's a great, oh, thank you, Eric. So how can policymakers influence?
How do they, how can they influence, and how can they be influenced in in the ecosystem community. So that's why I was asking that question, because I thought that playbook might answer it.
It would be if the playbook got written, but I don't think the playbook is written yet. So it's just a draft and an idea. And so we're hoping to put some energy. If you would like to work on that playbook, we would love to have you do that, because I think in your mind you're already formulating some of those answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just looking at it. And I bet that it would be very helpful I know it'll be very helpful to have. I just don't know where we're at as far as that particular initiative.
I can give a quick update, Celia, if that'd be helpful. So Sam, Beth, who is sort of my co-leader on this initiative, and I put together a spreadsheet a while ago that is going to be meant or hopefully be used to collect both good examples of policies that support entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial ecosystems, and also ones that aren't so much. And then the idea was to use sort of a crowdsourced approach to reviewing all of those documents and pulling out sort of the nuggets and the stuff that we would say this is something we would put in a policy playbook. So I can share that spreadsheet with you if you'd like. If you want to put your email in the chat, I can share it with you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but Celia's right. Other than that, it's not going to be written before the summit. Probably not much action other than that, but I will definitely share it with you.
No, it's complicated. I totally get that. Thank you.
And then I know, Dara, you're working on some things. Is it more towards goal 6 or goal 7 that you're working on?
I've been more involved with goal 6. A couple of my colleagues are goal 7's the one around that includes some kind of certification in entrepreneurship. Maria Myers, the founder of SourceLink, and I believe Kate Hodel have been working on that one.
Okay, great. And I think you and Sarah have been focusing on the universal support piece. And
yes, kind of the gathering of content that can be shared, blogs, videos, those type of things.
Great. And I know along with blogs and videos and things, Jeff Bennett, who's working on the Ecosystem Builder Hub, Storytelling Hub, will be collecting those as well. So we would love to have you connect. So the interesting part about this is for many of you who have been to the ESHIP Summit or approached ESHIP, you looked at things that seem to fit into the things that you're already working on. Like for me, the epiphany of coming to ESHIP was I found my people. I found people who geek out on the same kind of things, get excited, and want to do something towards this. So that was really exciting. Then I found myself kind of focusing on certain initiatives. So for me, collaborative culture was a big piece. I'm very much in tune to collaborative cultures, community building, the ecosystem building part of it, right? So goal number 2 resonated with me. I was interested in some of the other ones, but as the second ESHIP Summit came around, I started to look at these 7 goals and found how they intersected. And that's why the storytelling piece is something that I pulled out of there. It's like, oh, in order to do all these things like universal support, storytelling is the PSA. So that goal 6.2 that says global awareness of ecosystem building, that's a total PSA piece in my mind. And so that tracked with me, and I knew that I wanted to put some energy towards that. Beth, who Katie's working with as well, is focused on things like that. So now I started seeing how they overlapped and intersected and intertwined and fused into each other, right? So now, as some of you have been on several different calls, right? Eric, Sam, you're seeing this higher level view, and higher not by a hierarchy, but just just picking up your head a little bit and seeing how the goals kind of intertwine, right? I know Dia and I talked about that when I was in Ada last 2 weeks ago? Oh my gosh. And talking to people who are very used to seeing what they're used to seeing, right? Very focused and in front of them. And now they see this broader idea. So, Dia, did you have something to share about that?
No, I have not been on any other calls, but I definitely think that storytelling aspect is connecting, and something that I saw after your talk at the summit was, people realizing they're ecosystem builders. And it's just important for some of the right people, like people in economic development, to kind of hear about that to start with.
So great. Yeah. So I think that as you've become more involved, I'm hoping that that this kind of resonates, and it's really important for us to make sure. So my job and my goal is to make sure that those connections happen, right? We're not operating in silos, so that Dara and Sarah from SourceLink can connect with Jeff and Tyler and Avery as they're working on storytelling initiatives. It's not an either or, it's an and, right? So option C is to have all of us involved in some way. Universal support, in my mind, also is a big part of that, because Eric's a great translator for people who are in traditional economic development and city offices to hear that entrepreneurial ecosystem building is something that they also do. They just don't necessarily recognize it as oh, that thing. So I think at a point in my life when I was, I felt like there was a little bit of pushback in entrepreneurism good, economic development and industrial age model bad. That wasn't really very inclusive, right? So now viewing that entrepreneurial ecosystem development is more of an evolution of where the industrial age model is going. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Any thoughts behind that? Okay. All right. So everybody feels good about that. We're on the right track. It's moving forward. So looking at the dashboard and things that are around there, we're going to move that forward. I'm curious to know, we do, when we get together, ecosystem builders, we have there's several of us that do calls, and I want to hear from you in regard to this universal support in the areas that you're working in. We do something called tea time, so it's a rose, a bud, and a thorn. So the rose is something you're excited about. The bud is something you're looking forward to. And the thorn is a challenge that you have. So I'm curious to know, in trying to get universal support for entrepreneurial ecosystem building, which is basically what we're focused on, right? What you have in your community that's a rose, a bud, and a thorn for you. And I will popcorn around to Dara.
Okay, let me think about this for a second. I think because our footprint is so wide, and we're working with all different sizes of communities, everything from rural to major metropolitan, I think the thing that I'm really excited about is just the amount of conversations that are going on, and even with more traditional economic developers that I come in contact with. And so I think the work that we do is finally becoming something that you don't have to take tremendous amount of time to explain. They, at least in general, in this day and age, I think, get the concept, and then being able to dig down into what that work looks like based on the community that they're in. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the evolution, especially now with the ESHIP summit, and I think the heightened awareness, and as we're pulling together resources and having conversations and just the sharing among those that are in attendance, how that's going to be able to continue to elevate the work that we're all doing. The thorn, is that what did you say that was, a problem or an opportunity?
A challenge, yeah.
Challenge. I think I still think that there's a challenge around what to measure with the work that we're doing, and thinking about different ways to be able to take those measurements and be able to tell that story to the important stakeholders.
Great. I'm going to add one more thing as we move towards ESHIP is, what do you think we can do at ESHIP to move this forward? Or what can we do before ESHIP to get ready to move this stuff forward? Because it looks like everybody here is going to attend. So, so what can be done? And I'll type this in here. What can be done, or what should we strive to do?
Is that still my question?
Yes.
Okay, I think just thinking about the folks attending, because we haven't had, there's been people move in and out as they've come to the conference, and I think getting them kind of up to speed, especially for anybody new that's coming this year that wasn't involved in the process last year, so that they feel like that they're in a position to engage and have a meaningful, contribution.
That's great. Spot on. You want to pick somebody to go follow you?
Sure. How about Dia?
So the rose and the bud kind of similar. I feel like just the conversations that we're having, people are adapting to it as a community, and whenever there's like consensus within the community, that seems to resonate with the leaders, because that's kind of the voice they're trying to get. So I think majority people talking the same, sharing the same message is what I'm excited about, because it's always better for 10 people to say that, okay, we are ecosystem builders, rather than one person trying to push that through. The challenge, I feel like we still have a little bit of a mentality of, like Celia mentioned, that economic development is, we are trying to steal something away from it by adding on entrepreneurship and innovation. It's kind of like a scary thing, but that's not, we're not trying to cannibalize anything, we're trying to add on. So that message needs to be a priority, and tell people that we want to work with you. We're not trying to like say this is old school, this is gone, this is all the new stuff. It's going to go together. For ESHIP, I think, and this might already be there, maybe I did not see it yet, but kind of just like goals and objectives for people with different backgrounds. For example, if I'm in economic development, maybe I can have a sheet of, these are the objectives that I can look forward to from the summit, whether it's to show back to my community, or also for the use of for ESHIP in the future, that this is the value that somebody with this background got out of this conference.
So explain that to me just a little bit more. So I know that part of reporting back is really important, because you have to share with the people that sent you, like how their investment pays off, right?
Correct.
So there are things that they're looking for. Trying to figure out if I can give you a tangible as far as past ESHIPs go. So I'm going to rely heavily on Dara, Eric, and Katie to think about, in past ESHIPs, like when you went back, besides the fact that you got to be around people that kind of get what you were geeking about, what's a takeaway that is tangible that you can report? Eric?
Yeah, so I'll struggle, but I'll try. So, I think in some ways, so I work for city government. I think in general, our community is doing reasonably well. There's enough people talking about ecosystem building, but it hasn't been, totally baked into government, say, decision making. And yeah, so that's kind of a struggle because we're all looking for resources, and we want to be able to continue to do the work. Basically, over the course of the past couple of years, there have been a couple of folks who have been involved in this conversation. Last year's ESHIP, my economic development director went, as well as the leaders of a nonprofit in the community. They're doing a lot of work. And also economic development director for Santa Fe, which is close to us. So they brought the message back, and this year we will be seeing both the mayor for Santa Fe and Albuquerque attending. So that's kind of a big thing for us, because we want to make sure that that we're all aligned. Part of the thing that I think I differ on ecosystem building versus, say, just community building is having the leadership, having stakeholders, having those kinds of folks who are policy makers, having those people, bought in and also, helping lead, supporting, that is really, really invaluable to making it all work in the ecosystem. So it's taken a while, let's say, and we're always frustrated by that, but we're seeing those kinds of benefits. So now it's up to all of us to up our game. So that's a big, big positive, and we're excited about it. Hope that helps.
Okay, so Eric, since you're off mute, oh no, you put yourself back on mute. Why don't you fill us in on your rosebud thorn and what can we do?
Oh, sure. Let's see. So I think, like some other folks have said, I'm not sure that we've got it. We don't have any real roses at the moment. There's a couple of buds that I see in our community. One is we're working with Forward Cities on an initiative around regional ecosystem building, and that's coming together. It's sort of a next meeting a little bit later this afternoon. So it's promising, but it's still got a lot of work to do. The thorn that's associated with that is, and I always bring this up, it's sort of those issues of trust. How are these different organizations that are involved? How do we build kind of the knowledge and awareness of each other, what they're doing, and maybe a working relationship so that I know this other organization's got my back. They don't have to attend every meeting. I don't have to attend every meeting, as long as we are making sure everybody gets filled in. And also somebody's looking out for our interests, even if it's not in their direct interests. That takes some time. So I'll put that as both, it's a good rose bush. It's got both thorns and buds. That's the main thing. And I think these kinds of conversations. So the universal support piece is so important, because when we're all working on this kind of stuff, we don't want to be investing our time in something that's not going to turn into anything real. So thinking about the support that's going to be needed, and it might not be there right now, but thinking about the kind of support that's going to be needed in the near future for this is really, really important. So, when we see those projects funded, that'll be a bloom. Right now, it's a bud. And I don't know, let's see, did Katie talk about buds and thorns yet?
No, I can go. Thanks, Eric. So I think something I'm really excited about was 4 of the ESHIP champions went to Washington, D.C. last week and met with our members of, well, not our, but a bunch of members of Congress, alongside, I think, about 40 entrepreneurs from different cities. So we had a Hill Day all about entrepreneurial ecosystem building. And our role as ESHIP champions wasn't so much to promote ourselves with our own organizational hats on, but this whole concept of ecosystem building for entrepreneurs. And I met with 3 senators, 2 from Michigan and 1 from my home state of Wisconsin. And it was really exciting about how they sort of drank the Kool-Aid pretty fast, or sort of already had a notion about it. And so that was just really exciting to hear. I really do believe most change takes place on the local level, and talking to mayors and city council people is more effective when you're trying to build local ecosystems. But I think as they're, designing banking bills and things that will affect, the local players, it's really good to have them understand what we're doing and why it's important. And I think more than sort of what Dia was saying, that it's a complementary system to what already exists, and just sort of an additive to the traditional approaches of incentivizing and attracting and stealing and that kind of thing. So that was what I'm really excited about. Something I'm looking forward to. I mean, ESHIP is going to be really great. I as a first-time attendee last year, I was very overwhelmed by the format and the expectations and what was supposed to go into it. And as Celia knows very well, and as all of you will get to know, I'm not a super go with the flow person. I really like to know what's expected of me and what's going to happen. And ESHIP has taught me to sort of relax, which is great. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to reconnecting with the whole community. A challenge is just finding the time to do this work, as always. And, it's not my main job. My main job is as an ecosystem builder for my own network. So this obviously is very critical and important. And so I think something that the summit can do, and I think it already is with the unconference on the day leading up to it, is really provide a space for us to actually do work, like do this work. And that's something I'm trying to do with my own conferences that I run for my organization is, people get really excited. They find their people, their comrades, whatever you want to say. And then they get really excited and they go home and they don't have any time to actually do the work that they promised or that they really intended to do coming out of the conference. And so I think as leaders of the space and event leaders, it's really important for us to design programs that give people the space to sit down and at least start the work, so then they have tangible next steps like, okay, I need to do these 3 things, instead of feeling like there's this mountain in front of you and you don't even know where to start. So that's what I think the summit could provide some space to do. And I think the last person is Sam.
Yes. I'll go ahead. So what I'm most excited about is the just general overall acknowledgement of this field, because I think instinctively a lot of us knew what this was, did it. I know for years it was part of a volunteer hat that I just got worn down because I was like, I can't do all this free work, but no one else will do it, but it's important. So it's nice to hear that there's an effort towards legitimizing it through credentialing and through education. I think that's really important. As far as what I'm looking forward to, like a lot of people mentioned, tangible resources, something tangible from all of this. And I'm looking forward to all this sort of coming together. And I know it's really hard because it's all cyclical. And it's all moving, right? We're trying to hone down on a moving target. And I think that that's really complicated, but it's also really exciting. So my challenge is I see a lot of proven results out there based on entrepreneurial leadership, for example. I see outcomes, but And I have like stacks of outcomes, right? But I think for me, the challenge is organizing them in a very systematic, understandable list that policymakers and that other people can use, because I can't just hand them a big list of case studies and measurable outcomes. It has to be organized. So that's my biggest challenge. As far as what was the last part of this?
What you're looking forward to, what can be done, and what should we strive to do during ESHIP?
Yeah, so with the whole understanding that, a lot of us had mentioned tangible resources, I think what would be ideal is if we approached ESHIP from an action-oriented perspective. And so even if it's the most simple summary possible for each goal, where we said past, present, and future for this goal, here's where we were, here's where we are, here's where we're going. If you're interested in this goal, here's where you go. And then at this stop, we can accomplish this. I mean, just like really simplifying it for people, because personally, I'm interested in a lot of the different goals, and even they all just mesh up in my head. And I wonder, I even wonder where to start sometimes, but I think that's just the natural systemic way that many of us think, so I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. The other comment that I had was in relation to something that Eric said when he said that baking ecosystems into government. He mentioned something about that. And my question is, so I'm sort of new to the party still, even though I went to ESHIP last year. Have we considered how this topic of ecosystem building is interrelated to the fourth industrial revolution and the complex world of work, and how different the world is changing? And here's why I asked that question, because sometimes it's helpful to frame what we're doing from the context of what the policymakers understand. And I think that what they understand is that the world is changing. And it's becoming more complex. And what ecosystems enable us to do is organize chaos, and organize systems. And I mean, I see systems thinking, design thinking, and entrepreneurial thinking as buzzwords that we use. They think of it as buzzwords. Like, the words we use aren't framed for them. And I feel like I just dropped a heavy load on everybody. But but the truth is, how we frame it for them and not for us does matter. And it all is interrelated. And not sure how to make that case, or if that case has been made, or if it's just way out there.
So I know that's part of the reason, or one of the things that we're very interested in doing kind of around the storytelling and communications around this, recognizing that, that's a distinct kind of customer or audience that we need to, basically they want something that's really going to be meaningful. And I think that's one of the challenges that's coming around the quantified methods. How do we say, yes, your city should invest in being able to track these kinds of items so that we all know that the different efforts you're doing are paying off. So I think, that's something that's come up and continues to come up. And I think we just need to keep pushing that, because it's a very important, we're not going to be able to achieve what we need to achieve if we don't have those folks bought in. So thank you.
So I think, yes, absolutely, to Eric's point, it's that we use certain words and we have an idea of what they mean. But if you ask everybody on this call and people that come to the ESHIP Summit, how to define entrepreneurism, how to define ecosystems, you're going to end up with so many different answers, right? So Andy did this thing last year at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, which 1,400-ish people go to out of 170 countries. And he interviewed about 48 people and said, what is your definition of an ecosystem? What is your definition of entrepreneurship? And ended up with all these different answers. So he's going back again this year and continuing on that. And, we'll see whether in the past year, has it fused closer together? Have we drifted further apart? I think that, now people are saying ecosystem. When we went to the first ESHIP Summit, when I was at the first ESHIP Summit in 2017, Derek can say, when we showed up, and I didn't know what the heck an ESHIP was, or ecosystem building or whatever, and they said, oh, you're the early practitioners, you're early adopters in this field that we want to create. And so in my mind, it's like, you mean all this stuff I did for free? That's a thing? And they're like, yes, and not only is it a thing, but we want to create a field around it. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool to be able to be paid for, the thing that you do, that you naturally do. Because there are people that run incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces, programs. They do those things. I think it takes a little bit of a shift to be an ecosystem builder, right? So you do that, and that's what you get paid for. The ecosystem building stuff is almost like a fringe benefit of those people who do that connecting and just lowering the barriers. Not that they don't do it, but some people do more. So I want you all to think about also that ESHIP Summit is just a point in time. It's a point in time that we're all going to converge together and be able to do the things. So a lot of the planning around ESHIP is really being mindful about what is it that we can do when we're together in person that we can't do on these calls or emailing or Slack channel. So that's our goal, is to really work on, when you get 450 ecosystem builders together with 150 people that work around mayors and mayors' offices, that that we're going to have this opportunity that we want to take advantage of and not nefariously take advantage, but really create collisions, right? So the result or the hope or the strive is that we actually create pilots out of these programs. So we would love to see these initiatives, right? And all the rest of them that follow, like these 32 are the starting off point, right? And connect them between the practitioners and national resource providers, the organizations that have the bandwidth, the people power, the financial resources, all of those things that can say, we will help support and put energy behind this. And it's matchmaking, and hopefully with the help of the Kauffman Foundation and shifting their view of grant making just a little bit, so that it actually isn't it shifts from the traditional idea of we're going to open up a grant process for this category, right? And if you have something that's this category, then submit your RFPs and we'll fund it. Now it becomes, these are initiatives that need to be done. We will support these initiatives because the field and the foundation and all of the people around this area have recognized that these are things that need to be supported in order to move the field forward. So that's a very different grant making process than the traditional kind. Does that make sense? So that's what we're hoping to incorporate. And as Eric touched on and Katie did, we're going to put together an unconference. It will take place early on the 21st. Which is the day that people are arriving, and along with what Dara said about the new person orientation. So there will be an opportunity to introduce people to ESHIP and ESHIP goals. We're talking about a webinar and an in-person thing so that people have some kind of exposure if they're new to ESHIP or they're new to the summit or whatnot, that they can attend, so that it gives them a little bit more background, answer questions, that kind of thing. We're grateful for the ESHIP champions who are able to devote a lot of time and energy in order to help support that, because while Christine and I do this work, it's not something that the two of us are going to be able to do by ourselves. So having people like Katie and Eric and a bunch of other people who have really pledged to put that initiative forward is great. We will always be looking for more ESHIP champions. It's not like this is it. People will come and go as their energy allows also. So that's what we're working towards. And then the other stuff that happens at the ESHIP Summit is really the idea of showcasing or showing what national resource providers are already out there and how we can connect to them and how we can engage to move these initiatives forward. So that's the hope and the goal and the strive. If you have any questions or feedback, please let us know. Everything's a draft, and so we don't have all the answers. And so all the times that I'm up at the foundation on a monthly basis, we're still looking for that room with all the answers, and it's not there. So there's no answer room at the Kauffman Foundation, and it's going to take every single one of us to bring our unique gifts to bring this to fruition. So all your perspectives are really important, and it does influence where we go. And as Victor said, when we were getting ready to launch the summit planning, he says, you know what, we're not going to solve, this is 20 and 30 year work. We're not going to solve for it by the next summit, right? And we're going to get it wrong. But we have the best people around to work on this. So I'm going to invite all of you to get as involved or more involved as your energy allows. When you're doing this, I think Katie said something about taking on this big initiative, right? It's a lot to take on. So I used to tell people about eating an elephant, like the whole idea of don't eat the how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. Like, try not to do this, right? It's overwhelming. So when I used to talk to people about that, it really made sense, right? You just take it a little bit at a time. And then while I was I was Googling a meme to send to somebody to kind of reinforce that. And then I ran across this article. So I'm going to share this article with you. It said, don't eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I thought, what? Wait, I've been sharing this message for so long, but if you get a chance to read it, this is what we do in ecosystem building. We're having an elephant party because you don't want to eat the elephant all by yourself, right? It's hard and it's going to go bad and it's not going to taste good. And who wants to have that all the time? So elephants are big. You maybe want a little antelope, or you want to bring in a giraffe, or, you know, just, and this is the elephant party. So we invite all of you to the party and take a little elephant, take a little something else, and yes, all plant-based problems too. So I appreciate it. Are there any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to add for posterity, and as we load up all these videos onto the dashboard, what can we help you with? Sam, is there a grid of all resource providers? There are. It's being compiled. Christine is having conversations with national resource providers. We have about 70-ish that have been identified and engaged. There have been ongoing, just like we do working group calls, they've had some webinars and introduction to the goals or reintroduction to the goals. So, so it's in process, and I don't think we'll have that all fully compiled until the ESHIP Summit, and that's not to say that the list is done, right? That's just up until the point of the summit. Anything else? Okay, so a word to close. Eric, give us a word to close.
Barbecue. I'm thinking about all these animals. And Kansas City,
that,
so yeah.
Warm outside, barbecue, yeah, that's
Let's see. In that case, Katie, what's your word?
Playing hooky this afternoon to go enjoy the sunshine. Dia.
Tennis, because I want to teach tennis later this afternoon. Samantha.
Excited. Dara.
Sunshine and 70. That's all I can say.
Excellent. And I am grateful to all of you. Thank you so much for your time and energy and interest and all of that. It's it helps to have these calls, not for anything else except very selfishly that I get pumped up when you're all involved. So I appreciate that. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.
Thank you.